So, hello everybody. How's it going? Hope you've all had a lovely week. I had to move the stream yesterday to today for two reasons. The first being that I had to, oopsie daisy. Oh, there we go. The first reason being that I had to get some sleep because I haven't been sleeping properly. And the second reason being I wanted to try Saturday rather than Friday to give myself a little more time to collect my thoughts about about the gaming news. So hopefully you can hear me loud and clear. And we'll go on to our introduction. So, I see there's a little issue with the chat and Twitch. So I guess Twitch is going to be it's probably going to be abandoned today. Maybe we fix that. We fix the Twitch side just a bit. Maybe, perhaps. No, I can't do it. Okay. So Twitch will be, I'll take a look once in a while, but it looks like the OBS is not connecting to Twitch. So for the introductions, we'll be reading articles pertaining to the gaming industry, and I will be offering commentary given my network of informants and connections. After reading and commenting on the articles, I will share some additional thoughts. For announcements, if you enjoy talking about video games, gaming trends, the gaming industry, and you appreciate what I do, be sure to give the video a like, to comment, to subscribe, and to share with others to support the channel. So on to our first story. So, you've probably heard about this, maybe not. It kind of went under the radar a little bit. Sony files lawsuit against Tencent for allegedly cloning Horizon series. This is Sony Interactive Entertainment, has branded Tencent's upcoming title, Light of Motoram, a Horizon knockoff, and claims the Chinese conglomerate previously tried and failed to license the franchise. So this is an image from the Tencent game, and you can see it looks very similar to the Horizon series. Sony Interactive Entertainment has accused Tencent of developing a slavish clone of its popular Horizon series in a new lawsuit. The lawsuit, shared online by GameFile, was filed on July 25th in the Northern District of California and claims that Tencent's upcoming open-world adventure title is a blatant and unlawful copy of the Horizon franchise. I do have a copy of that lawsuit, and it is very long. Just drag it in here so we can take a look at it. So here you go. It's 48 pages long, and I am unwilling to go through the whole thing. I also didn't have enough time to go through the whole thing, but it looks, there are some images further down which will cover. Here we go. Here's an example where you have the Horizon franchise on one side and the Tencent game on the other. And you can see those similarities in the marketing materials and presentation of the games, which got them into some hot water. So, Sony explained Horizon has become one of its most valuable intellectual properties since debuting in 2017, and claims Tencent is attempting to benefit from that success by releasing a ripoff that misappropriates the overall tone, feel, sound, and appearance of the series. So these are all aesthetic, and I think that's something I want to keep in mind as we go through the article. That given these are aesthetic, they're not gameplay itself, and I will elaborate on this later with my additional thoughts. The overall impression conveyed by Tencent's adoption in Light of Motoram, just an aside, I think this is a really funny name, and I don't quite understand what Motoram is supposed to be, but I think it's a funny name. It's also a little tricky for me to say. So, its adoption in the game of the same high-fidelity post-apocalyptic visual aesthetics. There we go, or more aesthetics. Blending lush natural environments, tribal culture, futuristic mechanical elements, and ethereal sounds primarily in the soprano register, is substantially similar to the Horizon Zero Dawn and Horizon Forbidden West audiovisual works and infringes the copyrights therein. So this is, they're enumerating other aesthetic elements, so high fidelity, post-apocalyptic, natural environments, tribal culture, futuristic mechanical elements. Tencent is also accused of specifically adopting Sony's approach to branding by using a red-haired female main character. This is not a very strong point. There's many characters that are red-haired female characters to market the title on social media. Sony claims it's a tactic that reflects a deliberate infringement of the Alloy character mark, which is also a red-haired female protagonist. Sony claims Tencent sought to license Horizon franchise. In what is perhaps the wildest accusation in the lawsuit, Sony claims that Tencent previously attempted to license the Horizon franchise in March 2024 to create a mobile title that would expand the series by incorporating Eastern aesthetics. The PlayStation maker says Tencent's pitch was rejected outright and that it considered the matter closed. It also, however, believes Tencent only made that approach after stating looks like I'm having trouble today reading. After starting work on Light of Motoram and continue to secretly develop the title even after failing to secure the Horizon license. This is overall a bit odd to mention that it secretly was developing the title. I mean, that's how the industry is for the most part. You work on something, you keep it secret for a long time, and there's always leaks with video games, but you keep it secret and you develop it secretly. Words are hard. They are hard sometimes. They are. My throat's a little bit funny today, so fortunately, let me see if a little water is going to help with that. Yeah, and yeah, the OBS is still not connected to Twitch. So if someone's on Twitch, now is a perfect time to come onto YouTube because in general, it's better to go on YouTube because I don't know what's going to happen to Twitch in a year from now. It's going through so much drama and YouTube is a little easier for me. So yeah, this is not a great criticism. Like, they developed the game secretly. That makes perfect sense because, again, most games are worked in secret until the studio or publisher feels it necessary to advertise it, usually marketing it with a trailer, or they'll have they'll show images of works. Like if you have characters in the game, they'll show characters one after the other. They'll show still images of environments and they'll talk about it, and they'll have their developers talk about it, usually creative director, game director, what have you. So, so far, what is Sony complaining about? It's aesthetically the same. Okay. It is a point, but it is not a strong point yet. And then they're complaining about them working on this secretly. Still not a strong point. That happens in the industry. That is what you want to do. So, continue. So, Sony's lawsuit includes multiple screenshots of the pitch deck, shown below, presented by Tencent during that 2024 meeting. The Japanese company says Tencent suggested the title would have potential for games as a service adoption. That's what this stands for. And would look to incorporate gameplay elements such as survival, crafting, pet taming, and multiplayer game modes. So this also is, so now we're talking about the gameplay. And this is where it diverges. Survival. They don't have this in Horizon to my knowledge. Haven't played the game, but I've watched people play it. Crafting. Crafting is used across many games. You can't really use this as a point to criticize Tencent. And I think that's why Tencent is using this as, they're suggesting that the title would have these things. Pet taming, perfectly fine. Multiplayer game modes, perfectly fine. There is the pitch deck here, and I can't expand it, so you'll have to forgive me. But they pitched this idea to Sony because they wanted to have access to the franchise, and they were told no. The pitch deck included mock-ups of Eastern-inspired designs and settings, including one of Aloy, Horizon's lead female character, standing on the Great Wall of China. Continues to suit. At no time during this meeting did Tencent disclose that it was already working on a game that was based on the Horizon IP assets. Well, it was definitely, I think, in their minds that they were going to work on this and then pitch it, and they were going to get the franchise, or the IP. So it looks like that failed, and I think that I have additional notes on this later on what I think they could have done to what is the word I'm looking for? Well, to turn things around, to put it simply. To pivot, that's the word I was thinking about. To pivot, after they were rejected. Sony states it rejected Tencent's pitch on April 8th, 2025, because it didn't make sense to pursue a Horizon universe crossover. Tencent announced Light of Motoran later that year, and, funnily enough, PlayStation had the game on their store, planned to be on their platform. They also presented it on their yearly presentation, so they knew about the game close to a year ago, and even were willing to sell it. This whole lawsuit makes that a little funny. As a result, Sony claims Tencent had violated the Copyright Act and is causing irreparable harm to its business. The company is seeking a preliminary and permanent injunction that will prevent Tencent from promoting and eventually selling the game. It is also seeking damages, including up to $150,000 for each separate work in the Horizon franchise infringed, and for Tencent to be ordered to deliver all infringing materials to Sony's attorneys for destruction. I think that's a little bit harsh, but I guess they want to make sure that these materials that can be copied onto another server or another hard drive or destroyed. It's a bit funny. It's to me at least, because they can just keep it on another hard drive. All the OBJ files and the scripts and what have you. So this is the first story of today. Is Sony is not happy with Tencent, and these are two of the biggest players in the gaming industry. Is Sony and Tencent. There's another article that goes over this very quickly. So Tencent's New Horizon-like title will be launched on PlayStation, and this is, I believe, this was published last year, December 2024, and this is what I mean. They had planned to put this on the PlayStation, which is a little funny, given that the lawsuit comes out now, given that they had this idea. They must have looked at the game and gone, yeah, we'll approve for this to be on our console. And now they just suddenly do this 180 and go, not only do we not want it on the console, but in fact we want it destroyed. So the likeness of Tencent's newly announced title with Sony's Horizon, I thought I could skip saying this word. Light of Motoran with Sony's, it's such a goofy title. It sounds so goofy. With Sony's Horizon Zero Dawn is blatant enough of a ripoff to call it a ripoff of the latter. However, those who are waiting for a drama about the Chinese gaming giant being sued will be let down by the news that the game will also be available on PlayStation. And there we go. It's also going to be available on PlayStation. Until now, that is. Now they've chosen to no longer have it. Not only is sometimes I wonder how these journalists write. Anyways, not only is a lawsuit will not... Okay, yeah, never mind. You see, she wrote... This is written poorly. Anyways, the lawsuit's not going to happen. Let me just summarize it. PlayStation China's official account on social media, Weibo, has announced this news along with a 7-minute trailer on the PlayStation 5. Post also reveals that the first round of mobile testing for the game will soon be available for sign-up. Oh, that's interesting. So those going to be on mobile. That's always impressive to me that they can put games like this on a small phone. If you missed the comparison between the upcoming open world survival game featuring a female protagonist, they write without editors. They do, it appears. It's a shame. But anyways, this article is just to say that is evidence that they had planned to put this on the PlayStation Store and the console. So it's a bit awkward, I find. What do I think about this? So I have my notes. I was writing them yesterday until 7 in the morning, and then I was writing them again this afternoon until about an hour ago. So I put a little bit of thought into this, and a little bit of it has already been said, given that it is, I've offered some commentary on while reading the article. However, this is going to be a little more, it's going to have better flow, and for sure, it's better written than what the journalists can offer us. So, let me take a quick look at the Twitch side to see if there's anyone chit-chatting. No, there isn't. Okay, because I don't have the OBS showing me that. I don't want to leave them out dry. So, development of light. So, just to summarize a bit in the beginning before we get into the meat of the matter, development of Light of Motoram. Let me go on this one. We can take a look at that image. There we go. Development of Light of Motoram reportedly began in 2023 under Tencent's Polaris Quest label. In March 2024, while development was already underway, Tencent approached Sony Interactive Entertainment with a pitch to create a licensed game set in the Horizon universe. Sony declined the proposal. Despite this, Tencent continued development, and Light of Motoram evolved into a title that bore striking visual similarities to Horizon Zero Dawn and Horizon Forbidden West, including a red-haired female protagonist, tribal motifs, and mechanical beasts in a post-apocalyptic setting. Although the underlying gameplay diverges from Sony's work, particularly from its own in-development online Horizon title, the aesthetics and tone of Motoram appear too close for comfort. Yeah, I think I'll call it Motoram from this point forward because it makes it a little bit easier. So that is just the first note on, to give you a quick summary. Just to note, both games look the same and they are suing over copyright infringement, which is different from another case in the gaming industry presently, where Nintendo is suing Palworld for patent infringement, the patents in this case being mechanically based to gameplay. So one is a copyright and the other one is a patent, and these two are very different. So just in case anyone's wondering, oh, it's just like Nintendo, it's not. It's a little bit different. So ultimately, this entire situation is very amusing to me, as it could have been avoided with appropriate foresight. If Tencent had coordinated more effectively with its legal department, which I presume is effective given how wide Tencent's influence is on the gaming industry, because Tencent makes games, but it also owns shares in other companies, such as Riot and Ubisoft and what have you. So they have a very wide net and a wide influence in the industry. Where was I? Before or during development, or approached Sony through the appropriate channels when considering the Horizon franchise, this legal conflict may have been avoided. Even after Sony declined the pitch, Tencent had ample opportunity to revise its creative direction and preempt potential infringement claims. For starters, the decision to feature a red-haired protagonist by itself isn't egregious, but in addition to the tribal attire, it is reminiscent of Aloy from Horizon. This could have easily been avoided by showing the character with different hair colors or styles, suggesting that it can be modified, or otherwise visual separation from the attire. From the hairstyle and attire alone but the hairstyle and attire alone are not enough to get them in legal hot water. Regarding the use of mechanical animals, this concept is not inherently problematic. It's a common sci-fi trope However, the close resemblance in the specific animal choices and their robotic designs clearly mirrors Horizon's iconic creatures, raising legitimate concerns. This is much more egregious than the character presentation given the choice and style of the artwork. Machines can be expressed in many ways considering their artificiality, and this is another example of conflict easily avoided. Likewise, tribal societies are not an issue in themselves, but when combined with the other overlapping elements, they contribute to a composite aesthetic that closely parallels Sony's intellectual property, especially given the setting is post-apocalyptic. Pardon me. Tongue got twisted. Especially given the setting is post-apocalyptic. So that's all aesthetics right now, right? Then there's the gameplay. The gameplay appears to be the only redeeming feature so far, or the only thing that redeems them in this lawsuit. But it's quite an important one because while games may appear similar, as is the case with many World War games in terms of setting and attire, gameplay is still king. Gameplay loops take longer to design and refine than art, though I can imagine the animations will take quite a while to adjust if the models for the machines have to be replaced. So, what's my take on the situation? I'm going to be concluding my points now. It seems uncharacteristic for a corporation of Tencent scale, especially as the largest player in the gaming industry by equity, to overlook such obvious legal risks. With a presumably capable legal department, one would expect early guidance on avoiding aesthetic conflicts. While it appears to be an oversight, it's also possible there's more behind the scenes than the marketing materials reveal. Pardon me? Just a little water? So there could be more to this than is being revealed. It could be embarrassing for Sony to discover in court the representation in marketing materials was misleading as to what lay in the game entirely, and could put them in a vulnerable position given, if I am not mistaken, Tencent can then look into what Sony is working on. So this could be bait. Maybe Tencent is a little bit salty about the fact that they didn't get access to their to their IP. And so now they've kind of put this out there as bait. And let's say Sony takes it. They go to court. Now Tencent can look at what Sony's working on. And that means Sony is in a bit of a hot water themselves. Because if I have a game with 200 outfits and I only show you 2 specifically to get you angry, then I'm setting a trap. Now, that's just my thought. I don't know if that's the case. It's just, I don't see why they would have done all of this when it's so easy to avoid. On the bright side, what Sony wants Tencent to destroy is the materials that are similar to theirs. So they can destroy the outfits, they can destroy the animals, but they still have the game and the game loop. And they can still, I presume, use this to make a new game. That's how games work. You destroy the art, but you still have the scripts, you still have the designs, you still have the mechanics. So they can still salvage this game in maybe a year or 2 after they designed new outfits, new monsters, etc. To conclude on this may set a concerning legal precedent, one that, while strengthening IP protections, could lead companies to pursue broader patents and exert tighter control over stylistic elements, restricting creative freedom and innovation within the gaming industry. I don't know about you, but I don't want to have fewer, blander games being made. And I think that's my main fear here, is that I don't want to see companies try to become more bold in their patents. And I think they can be turned down, because if there's anything I know about art, is that you can't patent styles. So this may, this conflict between Tencent and Sony, I don't know who's going to win. It may go either way, given that this is all complaining about aesthetics in a game. But it's not the aesthetics themselves, of course. It's putting them all together, which creates a male VTuber. Yes, I know, a rare sight. How's it going, Charlie? And it's when you put all these elements together that becomes a problem. But depending on the game, it can have other elements to kind of water this down, and so they've given a false representation. For example, the mechanical beasts, maybe there was like what, 5 or 6 of them, but if you have 50 of them, then you have far more than what Sony had to offer in their game. And so the court maybe will go, sure, these models are similar, but they have other models that are different and far more than what you've offered. So really, they can get rid of these ones, but the game can go forward being sold. Maybe. I've never been to a court. I have to just mention that. But it seems logical to me that if the game is for the most part, if they gave a false impression, the court will probably take that into consideration. So that's the story on Sony versus Tencent, and this is going to be a story I look forward to covering in the future. It looks like it's going to be a developing story, and I'm curious to see what's going to be the result of it in court. So let's take another look at the Twitch side, and there's nobody there. So there's people there, but nobody's giving me a chat conversation. So next story will be EA. So this one also is I like it. It's especially given what we talked about last week about Microsoft and the cost of games. For a bit of a quick summary, Microsoft is going to be, they had to raise the price of games to $80, and now they're lowering it back down to 70 given the backlash they received. So EA decided we're not going to do that at all. We're going to keep things $70. And I kind of want to go through that because it's an interesting choice. And I'll explain why in a bit. So EA CEO says it's not looking to make any changes on pricing on games like Battlefield 6. The CEO of EA says there are currently no plans to change the company's pricing strategy for its games. In a Q&A during its earnings call following the publication of its Q1 results for FY 2016, beg your pardon? Okay. I wonder if they made a little mistake there. The company's executive team was asked about the pricing of its games. One caller noted that Nintendo's releasing Mario Kart World for $80 and that Microsoft attempted to charge $80 for the Outer Worlds 2 before reversing that decision. So there we go. So this is the trigger, is Nintendo. And this is what we just mentioned. Microsoft attempted to charge them $80 before reversing the decision. And asked that with this in mind, where did EA stand on its let me just read that in my head. That's a very strange way to write a sentence, whatever. Where did EA stand on the $70 versus $80 price point debate, with particular regard to its upcoming Battlefield 6? CEO Andrew Wilson replied that EA had no plans to change its prices, but noted that EA already releases games at a range of prices for free-to-play to premium products, with deluxe editions such as the upcoming EA Sports, which has a 70 standard edition and a 100 ultimate edition. We're not looking to make any changes on pricing at this stage, but that's in the construct of we already offer a fairly broad pricing scheme across our various products. That's a fair way of putting it, I guess. You've got your standard edition, you've got the little extra. That's at least somewhat persuasive. When you think about everything from free to play through our premium products and our deluxe editions, our orientation is always to capture the full spectrum of pricing so that we can serve players in the best way possible and offer them the greatest value. We'll continue to look at opportunities to deliver great value to our players through various pricing schemes over the course of time, but no dramatic changes planned yet. And I think that's important. They're saying nothing planned yet. They could take a look at the market. I presume a lot of this has to do with the current state of the market, and otherwise, given that the price of goods and the price of goods and services across the board have risen, and therefore people have less money to spend on video games, which are categorized as a luxury good. So maybe they think we can't do it now. And in fact, we are expecting the competition to do it before us. So if we don't do it, it makes us look good. There's a lot of reasons I could think of them doing this, besides what they're stating here. CFO Stuart Canfield added that given EA's healthy live service revenue, the company is focused on building a player base and continuing to earn from them over the course of a game's life rather than increasing the base price for the game. And something to note about live service games is that they usually have microtransactions, which is another thing we talked about. I believe it was last week. So they probably see it as it's better to sell the game at a standard price and invite people who would be willing to buy the MTX than to propel people with a higher price and have them not buy your microtransactions, which are usually priced somewhere between $10 and $20, depending on what is being offered. We haven't factored in any different approaches in pricing through the current fiscal year and current guidance, Canfield explained. Given the size of our live service business, we continue to be very focused on LTV for us across our player base and, to Andrew's point, operating through a wide spectrum of pricing, but no change in our guidance for 2026 at this point. Microsoft announced in May that it had planned to start charging $80 for its games later in the year. It then announced last month that The Outer Worlds 2 would be the company's first $80 game before reversing that decision last week and opting for $70 price point instead. And it's not clear what the U-turn means for Xbox's plans, yada yada. We talked about that. So that's this is the article on EA, their choice to keep games at $70. And I thought that's interesting, given that there's many different variables that go into the decision on how to price a game. So I wanted to talk about this, especially with the upcoming Battlefield 6. And I believe this article also goes into it a little bit. It's a little shorter. Good. With Battlefield 6's multiplayer reveal happening this week, along with likely details on when pre-orders will open, fans have been wondering what the price of the game will be. While many expect there to be a higher-priced Phantom Edition, there's been no confirmation of the standard edition pricing. That said, it looks as though EA will be sticking to the $70 base price for Battlefield 6 when it launches. During the company's latest earnings call, which I tried to get access to, but I had no opportunity to do so. You have to use a key to get access to that. On Tuesday, CEO Andrew Wilson was asked about game prices jumping up to $80 at its competitors. Wilson then, had to clear my throat. So Wilson then said the company isn't looking at making any changes on the pricing at this stage. That's in the construct of we already offer a fairly broad. So he's just repeating what we read. When you think about it, everything is, okay, again, same thing. We'll continue to look at the opportunities to deliver great value to our players through various pricing schemes. Same thing. Why didn't I keep this then? I thought this article had something special to offer, but looks like I was mistaken. I apologize. So that's that's the story. Their games will be $70. But what do I think about all this? I have my notes. I was thinking about this particularly for a long time, and especially with the comparison to Nintendo, given that they were the first ones to put it up to $80 for a game. And it was also the comparison to other games that came out recently, like Expedition 33, Schedule 1, and these are indie and middle market games. So unlike how the market was a decade ago, now there's far more competition from indies and the middle market or AA games. So take a sip of water. So what do I think about this? What do you think about the prices remaining low, whether in the refusal to raise them from EA or returning them to $70 with Microsoft, as we saw last week? So as a consumer, I appreciate lower price video games. Reduced pricing increases accessibility and encourages me to take chances on titles I might otherwise overlook. Peak, for example, offered a fresh experience I wouldn't have pursued at a higher cost. From the consumer side, this is a positive outcome. However, in conversations with developers, lower pricing can represent a missed revenue opportunity, with potential losses in the range of 15% in profits. That's a significant figure, especially in an industry where profitability appears presently challenging, given the slew of layoffs and studio shutdowns in recent years. While it's true that modern games can feel expensive, especially in a time of rising costs across nearly all goods and services, it's also true that when adjusted for inflation, the real price of video games has decreased over time. Video games remain categorized as a luxury good, and I do not see an issue with pricing them at $80, provided the games at that price point can provide an appropriate value. I think ultimately the question isn't of price, but value for price. With each publisher and studio, I miswrote that, will determine to make games accessible for their audiences in order to sustain themselves. While some publishers were willing to raise game prices to $80, others held back. To understand why, it's first worth examining Nintendo, the company that set this precedent. What could cause Nintendo to raise the price to $80 before competitors in the games industry? So I'm going to go over why I think that's the case. I think the first consideration is Nintendo's legacy. Following the video game industry crash of the early 1980s, it was Nintendo that restored credibility to the medium. The launch of Nintendo Entertainment System in 1985 introduced noteworthy franchises to the market in conjunction with the Nintendo Seal of Approval. It was a Nintendo Seal of Approval, I wrote quality here, which set consistent standards for software reliability and helped re-establish consumer trust over time. And this is given the release of E.T., but there were other games that came before E.T. E.T. was just the final straw. So this elevated Nintendo as a publisher and led their continued success in the 1990s, when Nintendo continued to lead through a combination of hardware innovation and influential franchises such as Pokemon, which joined an existing roster of commercially successful ones such as Super Mario, and The Legend of Zelda. It became a cultural institution for games in the 90s alongside a rising Sega and budding PlayStation. Nintendo's attention to quality alongside their easy-to-learn, hard-to-master philosophy in crafting gameplay mechanics, just scroll down here, have contributed to a excellence in video games that are still played decades later. So You can see people playing, for example, The Legend of Zelda, Ocarina of Time, or Majora's Mask today because the game by itself is just perfect. So let me continue. Innovations in how to approach gameplay were pushed in the 2000s with dual screen on the DS and later motion controls on the Wii. Innovations continued in the 2010s with the hybrid gaming model of the Switch. Nintendo has remained competitive without engaging directly in the hardware arms race with Xbox or PlayStation. Instead, it is focused on distinctive software experiences, carving out a unique niche over the decades. Just bring this over here. There we go. Oopsie daisy. I lost my. There we go. There it is. I minimized the window and I lost it. By prioritizing innovation and broad appeal, Nintendo has positioned itself in a trendsetter as a trendsetter in the industry, capable of reaching a wide demographic across generations. So, what are the effects of this? Nintendo has a strong brand identity, given it is a trusted name in games that has been around for decades. Renowned for polished gameplay, prioritizing fun over graphical fidelity, just to contrast with Xbox, given our story last week, who were known for their shooters like Halo and Gears of War, which have a grittiness to them. Nintendo is perceived as a more whimsical company when making games, with examples from Super Mario, Kirby, or Donkey Kong franchises. Another major factor is consumer nostalgia, particularly among those who grew up during Nintendo's market dominance in the 80s and 90s. For many in their 30s and 40s today, Nintendo games were a core part of their childhood, forging emotional connections that continue to shape their loyalty. These franchises aren't merely games, they're tied to formative memories and experiences. Characters like Mario, Link, and Pikachu have become cultural icons recognized even outside the gaming world, while other publishers have created memorable mascots, such as Master Chief from Halo. Just to make another association with Xbox, they are not as numerous as Nintendo's. Nintendo's legacy and nostalgia appeal have cultivated a near cult following, with fans demonstrating deep brand loyalty that spans generations. It's not uncommon for It's not uncommon for dedicated gamers to have entire rooms in their homes filled with gaming memorabilia. More often than not, it's Nintendo paraphernalia that dominates these spaces. From backpacks to clothing to collectible figures and posters, franchises like Pokemon, Mario, and Zelda are prominently displayed. While this kind of fandom is not exclusive to video games, similar devotion can be seen through comic book or film enthusiasts, such as those who created theme spaces around The Thing. There's a The Thing room that exists, or Star Wars within their gaming world. Few brands inspire this level of consistency and widespread passion the way Nintendo does. So nostalgia drives consumers to purchase and proudly display Nintendo merchandise, which, when seen publicly, reinforces and perpetuates the brand's identity, which has lasted decades. So when you go outside and you see someone wearing a backpack with Pikachu on it, it reinforces this, right? That it's a good brand, it's a good franchise, and maybe you want to go out and buy a game now from Nintendo. So combining all this with the platform exclusivity, Nintendo titles are more than entertainment, they are a premium product. These games are immersive experiences and cultural icons, resonating across a wide range of demographics, and this makes them distinct from their competitors and gives them a leverage to raise the price of their games. So this is the reason why they have set themselves aside in this industry in such a way that they can just raise the price of goods. They have a very strong fan base. Whereas I have the final point here I want to make, where I'm going to be comparing it to other companies. Why can't Nintendo's competitors raise prices as easily without significant pushback? The answer largely comes down to who their customers are and how much trust those customers place in the brand. Many studios and publishers have struggled to cultivate this trust. For instance, EA has faced over a decade of harsh criticism, including being named worst company in America in both 2012 and 2013. Activision has drawn backlash for aggressive monetization tactics and and allegations of toxic workplace culture. Ubisoft has suffered multiple commercial failures over the past 5 years, leading to a declining share value and repeated criticism over repetitive gameplay in its franchises. What sets Nintendo apart from these competitors? What is the source of Nintendo's ability to command higher prices for their games? Brand equity. The company has built a large, loyal fan base, willing to pay a premium for quality gaming experiences, which other publishers and studios fall short in offering. So that is my conclusion as to why Nintendo can raise the price, but EA is not willing to. And Microsoft, they can try. I mean, they can do it. They can put the price out there, but it won't benefit them. I think other gaming companies, studios, developers, publishers, they're going to find the same backlash because they just don't have the brand recognition that Nintendo has built over decades. So, those are the stories of today. I'm sorry that I was a little bit stuttery when reading. My throat's not all what it should be today. I don't know why. It's a little bit difficult to talk. Or so, also, it doesn't help that the journalists are in dire need of an editor. But it looks like I was also in need of an editor there at the end. So, but in my defense, I was writing it until 7 in the morning, so I was tired. So those are the stories today, and hopefully you enjoyed that. Hopefully you enjoyed a little Daisy. There we go. Hopefully you enjoyed a little additional thought that maybe is enlightening. I like to think that I'm giving something that you don't get from other YouTubers. Usually they just read the articles and they. But besides someone like Luke Stevens, I don't see anybody offering anything that's really novel. So I hopefully my insights are, well, hopefully my personal commentary is insightful, and we can do this again next week. I'm going to try and do this on Saturday, so I have a little more time to collect my thoughts, because I do want to give you something that is of value. I don't want to just read the articles and just react to them. So yeah, hopefully if you've enjoyed this, be sure to, once again, when the video goes up, like it, comment on it, because it helps a lot with pushing the video. Be sure to share it with friends if you think that they'll like what I do here. And I hope to see you again next week. We'll do this again, and just maybe as a final announcement, I'm gonna have there's the Marvel Rivals season 3.5, which is coming out this week on Friday. So I'm going to be doing that on Twitch and YouTube. Speaking of Twitch, no one is left a comment. Okay, good. I'm going to be doing that on Twitch and YouTube. And yeah, I'm going to see if I can get some VTubers together to collaborate. So we're going to have a fun old time on the Friday. So I'll see you on the YouTube side. I'll see you on Friday. On the Twitch side, I'll see you on Thursday, and then we'll do this again on Saturday next week. So like I said before, like, comment, subscribe, and be sure to share it with